Hey Evan, did you like our intro music?
I do love it. It was giving me like house music vibes at the gay bar before it gets lit. I love it. I'm here for it.
I was like, I don't know if it's too intense, but it's there and I don't want to make another video. So
Oh yeah, it's like going to North Halstead and in Chicago, and then like from like 8:30 p.m. till 11:30 p.m. when the good DJ comes on at midnight. It's that vibe. It's that you're getting the drinks, you're getting ready before you make a mess of yourself. I
it's
love
a
that. I'm here
vibe.
for it. It's a
Amazing.
vibe.
So to the audience, I am here today with Evan Patterson, and we just had like a whole conversation about Christmas movies before this. So we were like amped up and just ready to laugh and take questions. Evan, will you introduce yourself?
Before I do that, we should say specifically we're talking about RuPaul and Lindsay Lohan Christmas movies.
Yes.
We're not talking about Hallmark, okay?
Yeah, we're not talking about like It's a Wonderful Life. It's
No.
lowbrow.
uh, yes, my name's Evan Patterson, Evan or Ev. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am a fractional VP of Sales and Marketing at Rocket Science Branding, alongside a host of a bunch of other gigs and brands that I work with. And I talk a lot about social selling, community marketing, B2B influence marketing, personal branding, and a lot of other things.
Yes, if you don't follow Evan, you definitely need to because I feel like I've learned a lot. And then I love how you just say things like with your whole chest. I love it.
I do my best. I do my best. And Kate, it's okay to have a wrong opinion. It's like
Yeah.
I love Kate. If you don't follow Kate Irwin, you need to follow Kate Irwin.
Oh, Kay and I have a standing meeting.
Kate, that's the point of the movie. I love that. I don't want it to have a good budget. I want to see the mess. It's Lindsay Lohan. I want Mykonos Lindsay Lohan for an hour and a half.
Yeah, of course. Um, okay, so today we are going to talk about social selling, and I think the people who have been here before know the drill, but it's basically like it's a Reddit AMA. So put your questions in there, and then Evan will answer them unfiltered, I imagine.
What is a filter other than coffee?
Yeah, exactly. And I will pop in like halfway through near the end just to say, like, hey, here's the time check. And, otherwise, I'm going to keep quiet.
Here we go.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going to kick us off with a question, which is
All
what
right.
is social selling?
I love this question because I get to start with what it's not. Um,
Ooh,
ooh, ooh,
sorry.
ooh, you're
Oh my
good.
goodness.
In the words of April Palmer, we need some more Baileys in our coffee.
It's my fault. I've forgotten how to do. Ah,
I love it here. Kate's
oh
over here
my
complaining about Lindsay
goodness.
Lohan's mic.
I'm like, what am I doing?
Yes. No, we're good.
Oh,
So,
jeez, Louise. Okay,
so
I'm
one
going
of my
off.
awesome. One of my favorite things about this question is I get to talk about what it is not. A lot of people get social selling and personal branding mixed up. They think it is synonymous. They are the furthest thing from the truth when it comes to being synonymous. They do work really well together, and one can fuel the other, and actually, one does fuel the other if you have both. But to me, social selling is a one-to-one or one-to-few version of community marketing where you're taking that personal brand and you're using that to go outbound and or drive inbound as a way to create opportunities for your pipeline. Um, so yeah, that is what social selling is, at least to me. Kate Irwin, Lindsay Lohan hater here, apparently. Just kidding. Love you, Kate. Evan, speaking of not having a filter, how do you make sure that you're staying on brand while also staying true to yourself when creating content on behalf of a company? So, great question. I love this one. I get asked this one quite regularly. And my answer is unfiltered because it really comes down to why and who you choose to work with in the first place. That is the biggest factor here. In the interview process, you want to make sure that you are vetting them just as much as they are vetting you. So you either A, have a personal brand ready to go when you start at the company, and or you are working on building a personal brand to have while you're working at the company. You want to make sure that the employer that you're about to work with is bought into the whole concept of that and what that means and what that is and how that benefits them. So make sure that you are looking at this employer as like, is this on brand for me? Like, do I like their product? Do I like the people who work there? Do I like the benefits of the comp? Those are normal questions to answer to yourself in the interview process. But you also want to make sure, do I like the industry that they play in? Do I like their customers? Do I like their ICP? And when I say do I like, I don't mean like do I have interest in the day to day of their jobs or their industry from a nerdy perspective. I'm also talking about the types of personalities that live in that space and in that industry or in those roles. Do you jive with that? Does it click with you? Does it expand who you are as a person? It's no differently than how an actress or an actor or a singer or a dancer looks at their cinematography, discography, or performance publication list. You want to make sure that everything you do is an expansion of your brand while on brand from you. You wouldn't see Jennifer Aniston doing a horror movie randomly. You would see her doing a satirical horror movie because she does rom-coms and comedies. She's not going to go, or she's not going to go into something that does not have a level of comedy to it. She does dramedies. She doesn't do horror. So if she did horror, it would be a parody of a horror movie. So same thing. Make sure it's on brand for you. Find your route and find the connection. That's my biggest piece of advice there. Great question, Kate. Amber asked, Amber Rhodes, have you noticed any social selling trends that people should be paying attention to? For me, I think the biggest thing is I'm finding that more and more people, and by people I mean employers, are hiring with the skill set of social selling in mind because they're realizing that no amount of workshops or webinars or podcasts or courses or AMAs, unfortunately, are going to turn somebody who's not good at being personable, not creative, not a content creator, not a community oriented person, not someone who's not afraid to get on the soapbox. Those are all things that are red flags now for a community marketer. No amount of workshops, AMAs, and all that stuff is going to solve that in a person. There's no training to fix that. So now they're hiring with that in mind. And so that's a big trend. So if you think that you are the right kind of person for social selling, you got to make it known and start doing it now because the best time to do it was 20 years ago, and the second best time to do it is today. So do it now. Do it now. That's what they're looking for. Um, I apologize if I say anyone's names wrong, by the way, so please correct me in the comments. Alyssa Turner, sometimes brand building comes off a cringy. Any tips for folks looking to move past that awkward phase and come off more authentically? Brand building, and I'm assuming you're talking about personal branding. It's only as cringy as you make it. To be quite honest. So I always tell people that when you're really just getting started, screw everything that I talk about when it comes to like monetizing it and creating revenue and optimizing the reach and all these other things. Put all that aside. That's the PhD. Start simple, get off the chair and start crawling. Don't worry about running the marathon yet. And what that means is, I was talking to Nadia Collins today over at SN Tech. Shout out to Nadia. But really focus on talking about things that are organic and authentic to who you are. So for me, I find that most people will benefit from being told, talk about problems that you're having or things you're trying to learn or get better at in public. So build your career, build who you are, build your business in public. Also talk about things you've learned or talk about things that you've experienced so you can like pull behind the veil. So for example, Nadia helped me a lot out with self-care and self-love. Back when I used to work as a BDR, I was struggling with a lot of mental health issues in that time. And so I told her, I was like, you learned how to do that, and then you gave me that lesson that you learned. So since you pulled the veil out from and taught me some things I would not have learned otherwise in this one-on-one Zoom call, there's nothing stopping you from doing that same conversation, but in public, on social media. So start with your experiences and your lived experiences. Learn what the audience reaction is to that, and just get comfortable being on that soapbox. Just get comfortable with getting that feedback and doing it consistently and putting yourself out there. If you start off with that, it'll be less cringy. It'll feel more real and true to yourself, and then you'll get a vibe for what works. And then you can take the bachelor's and the master's and the PhD course in personal branding. Another one from Amber Rhodes. What advice would you give to SDRs who want to get started with social selling but don't know where to start? First, make sure you're doing it because you want to do it, not because you're seeing all these influencers, myself included, talk about the vanity metrics or the funny money stuff that comes with it. That's all fantastic and nice, but you have to make sure you want to do it because it will show that it's forced, and you won't do well. It's quite that simple. If it's not forced, if it's not natural, it's gonna look poorly on you. It's gonna look poorly on your brand. It's gonna look poorly on your career, and it's really hard to bounce back from that. Um, I would also make sure that you learn that it's not that much different than cold calling and cold emailing in the sense that it's not a script, it's not a math formula, it's an art and it takes practice. So give yourself grace, give yourself time, be kind to yourself. If it feels more personal than cold calling and cold emailing, it's because it is. But for something to be personal doesn't mean it needs to be negative. So just don't invest too much into those feelings, and be kind to yourself in the process. Also, have fun. Everything you know about boring professional business speak, throw it out the window. It won't work. It just won't work. And back to when I was talking to Kate about with the personal branding element, personal branding does fuel social selling. But similarly to personal branding, since they're not synonyms, make sure that your style in communication is on brand with the company. Because if your company talks stuffy, but you don't talk stuffy, no matter how good you are at social selling, it's not going to work. So you have to make sure that your style is on brand with the company. I would make sure you look into those things. You have to focus on those external factors and your exposure to those before you even focus on the internal ones. From Trinity, can you share 3 tips for social selling? Trinity Win, great question. I would say, oh, I've shared quite a few already here, but have fun with it. If you're having fun, your prospects are having fun, and people buy from people that are having fun. Um, don't be afraid to play the card. So what I mean by that is when I worked at Reprise as a senior BDR, if you looked at my pipeline, it was mostly other marginalized identities. To be completely honest, I am a queer person. At the end of the day, I am poly. So my pipeline involved a lot of queer people. It involved a lot of people of color because a lot of the overlap in the history of queer people and people of color, regardless of the fact that I'm white, there's a lot of overlap in the history. So I played that card. I leveraged who I was as the way to make people feel comfortable around me, which obviously boosts my reply rates X, Y, and Z. And then I would also talk about, get a headshot. That helps big time. Look the part, look the role. I know it sounds silly, but like dress for the job you want does really work. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg for headshot. Just get your friend up a nice camera phone and have a good background, edit in Canva, call it a day. And then also, I probably a 4th tip here, but back to what I said about the early questions of it being on brand. Make sure it's on brand, and if it's not, go someplace else. It's that simple. Another one from Amber Rhodes. What are your favorite things to do when you're not working? Oh my gosh. I'm a big fan of anything RuPaul's Drag Race. I'm a big fan of drag queens in general, so there's a big difference in my mind between being a fan of Drag Race and being a fan of drag queens. I'm a fan of both. I'm a massive nerd. I love video games, mostly PC games. Also a lot of VR too. So I play things like lately I've been addicted to like Civilization 6 or The Sims 4, City Skylines, Victoria 3. In the VR world, a lot of Rec Room, VR Chat, Beat Saber, Supernatural, love those. TV shows and movies, I love them. Lindsay Lohan's new Christmas movie on Netflix, amazing. The B Word, Who Stole Christmas, and if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. Sketchy Queens with Jinx Monsoon and Liam King on World of Wonder Plus. And I also love I love dramatic shows too. I love comedy. I love British comedies. I love Absolutely Fabulous. I love Riverdale. I've been really into Riverdale. I know I'm behind on that one. I'm on season 2. Don't spoil it for me. Westworld. Yeah, I love a lot of different things. How can someone keep their outreach from being the typical B2B outreach? What should we avoid doing? So, a lot of my style when it comes to B2B comes from B2C. So look at how fun people like Brittany Broski and Sarah Shower, and Grace Helbig and Mamrie Har and other like influencers are having. Look at all Patrick Star. Like look at all of the fun they're having. Um, Because at the end of the day, right, people are buying from them because they like them and they trust them. It's that and part, right? And so, apply that to B2B. It's that simple. It's really that simple. Businesses are ran by people, in case you didn't realize that. It's not AI owned businesses. It's not a thing yet, hopefully never. So, make sure that you're just having fun with it. Be yourself. And I would say be yourself is a good thing to say, generally speaking. But if who you are is not good, then be somebody else. So, but yes, yeah, just take a note from B2C. Take a note.
I did want to pop in because we're 15 minutes through, so we're halfway through. And you're
Awesome,
doing
we're
great.
fly by. What are the most common misconceptions about social selling? Good question because I opened up with this one because it's the one that pisses me off. It's not synonymous with personal branding. And also, I would say social selling is an umbrella term. It can mean inbound, it can be outbound, it can mean social prospecting, it can mean multi-threading, it can mean a touch point, it could be the whole thing. It could be, one could argue affiliate marketing is a type of social selling, to be quite honest. Influencer marketing, another one too. I think people think that social selling is a one size fits all strategy. It's a lot more than that, and there's multiple types of social selling. And also, stop asking me questions like, my ICP isn't on LinkedIn that much, so how do I get them on LinkedIn? I'm like, you don't go to where they are. What? Social selling means take it and put it where your prospects are, not the other way around. If Trinity, when if you are advising yourself 2 to 3 years ago, starting out to build your social presence, what are the steps to get into the rhythm? Kind of touched on this earlier in the sense of like, start with what you know and what you're comfortable with, because the whole point of building a social presence, the hardest part to building social presence is just getting comfortable being on that soapbox and that consistency, and let's be honest, the BS that comes with it. So just starting talking about things that you don't know and you want to know, start talking about experiences that you're having. um don't don't ask yourself, are people going to care, are people going to judge me, am I right, am I qualified? Fuck all that, pardon my French. Just focus on being yourself. That's and focus on the consistency of being comfortable with being yourself in front of people. That's important. Also, if there's open mic nights in where you live, if there's improv classes, if there's stand-up comedy classes, if there's poetry slams, if there's karaoke nights, even if you're tone deaf and you're not funny at all, or you can't write to save your life and you stutter over your words every 5 seconds, do it. Do it. Rip the band-aid, no floaties into the deep end. Okay? That is something that will help you. I To be honest, I am giving this advice to anyone starting out because 2 to 3 years ago I was already doing this. For context, I've been working in community marketing for about 15 years. So 2 to 3 years ago I was already at this level. So for me, this is something that has just been cultivated over a long period of time. Amber Rhodes says, what can managers do to help support their rep social selling efforts? Try your best to understand what social selling is and isn't, and all the different types of social selling. Um, so that way you can speak the talk and walk the walk when you're talking to your reps. Um, get really good at management and leadership. Take some classes on it. Even if you think you're great, take some classes. You never know what you don't know. So social sellers and personal brand builders and people that are doing both. There's a lot of therapy you're gonna have to give them. There's a lot of like talking them off the ledge. Even myself needs it sometimes because we are putting out a lot of inherently personal parts of who we are and making ourselves vulnerable. In a way to benefit our own careers, but also your business. And also remember, it is for us first, you second. I don't build my brand for businesses to benefit off of me. I build my brand for me to benefit, which is a result of businesses benefiting off of me. It's for me first, you all second. Um, so just know that you have to understand all that nuance. So if you were my SDR and you went to go do a podcast with another company ever, you don't need my permission. Um, it might be okay to put in the contract like, hey, just like please don't do this with a direct competitor, but like anything Amber does is going to be synonymous with user gems, even if it's Amber doing a podcast about I don't know what it's like to live in Kentucky, right? Like, it doesn't matter if it's on brand or off brand for user gems. The goal is to get people to know who Amber is and like Amber, so that way when Amber does start turning on the social selling side of things and not the personal branding side of things, that conversation has what I call like social lubricant. You can skip that rapport building phase a little bit and just get right into the meat and potatoes of the conversation. I don't know who this is because of certain privacy settings on LinkedIn, but thank you. Taylor! Yes! If you haven't met Taylor, by the way, ball of energy. She's amazing. She's fantastic. Great sense of humor. Can you please tell us more about your record-breaking 80 demos booked? Any secrets? So 80 is not my record. My record is 120. I think it's 127, 128. In a different industry, for context, B2B insurance. But however, any secret sauce methods you can share. So, this is the PhD class here, this one here. When you're a normal SDR or BDR or salesperson, you start your pipeline all over again when you started a new company or new role. For two reasons. One, you either don't have a personal brand, or second reason could be, you have a personal brand, but you're not keeping track of your own leads and prospects and opportunities outside of where you're working at that time. So I track on my own outside in addition to, not in lieu of, the CRM or whatever social engagement platform that I'm using at my time at a company. That way, if I were to book a meeting at company 1 with Taylor, when I go to company 2, and because I'm good at keeping things on brand with me, therefore Taylor will still be in my ICP at every company I go to. Taylor will get a second meeting booked with me at this next company. And then when I go to company 3, I'm booking again with Taylor. And when I go to company 4, I'm booking again with Taylor. So I'm not reinventing the wheel or starting the road trip all over every time I move from one job to another. And that is how you get to those like behemoth numbers of those meetings booked, because I don't got to send Taylor 16 messages in a sequence on company 2 or company 3 or company 4. So for the people that I do have to do that with, I have more time to do that with. So it just kind of piles on top of each other. Look at how they look at cliffs and sediment over the millennia that this plant has existed. There's layers, right? So I'm just adding layers that I can tap into when I'm ready. Amber Road says, you're really passionate about building community. How does building community affect social selling success and vice versa? It goes right back to what I just said about the building the layers, right? Everything in community is a layer. Everything I do. There's different eras and different chapters. Look at Taylor Swift, look at Rihanna, look at Beyonce, look at Lady Gaga, look at the late Leslie Jordan. Like, every single celebrity, artist, politician, historian, political figure, everyone has eras, right? And they can tap back into those things for nostalgia or why we like certain things. Amber and I talked about this before we went live. The way Amber remembers Britney Spears is the womanizer circus era. I remember Britney Spears from the work bitch era, right? It's still Britney, right? And Britney will make content to this day, tapping into nostalgia from different eras of herself. And that keeps the fans coming back. That keeps the fans engaged. That keeps new fans coming in also. So there's 3 different layers there. And the more you have to tap into, the more resources and more people and more pipeline. Same thing in social selling, same thing in community. If your employer doesn't understand the benefit of social selling, how do you sell it internally? You don't work there, because I think a few years ago I would have told people how to do that, but I think now we're at a point where I just quit and go work someplace else. Amber Rhodes, what's a tool that you've used at work that you never want to live with? Oh God, I can't even. Um, Canva, Shield, and if you want Shield, go to my link tree. There's an affiliate link. Don't be cheap. Tolstoy, same thing. Go to my link tree. Love those tools. Trender. Non-spawn for that one. Trender, they're fantastic. LinkedIn, can't live without it. And yeah, I think those are my top. Oh, Calendly or Chili Piper, any sort of calendar management booking tool, you need it. 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 And I don't care if a company doesn't have one. Get your own. Also, every tool I just mentioned, I personally pay for and keep. What's a recent win that you're super proud of, either professionally or personally? I am really proud of the fact that when my role got eliminated at Trender, I received over 50 written job offers in less than a month, and I applied to 0 companies. So I applied to one company because they needed my resume in their system in order to get the interview because they had a very antiquated interview process, and there's a reason why I'm not with that company right now and will never be. But yeah, no, I'm very very proud of that. I've used my network in the sense that to make money and to make profit, but to have my community that I built really rally around me and help source opportunities for me and make that a smooth experience was very heartwarming, especially to this queer kid who didn't think that that was ever going to be a thing in their life. So thank you all. I really appreciate it. So just in case anyone's ever known, I've never read a book in my entire life, including during school, cover to cover. That's a fact. Um, Podcast recommendations. I might be a little biased here, but The Other Side of Sales. I love it. I work there, so I'm biased. That's great for anybody. It's not just salespeople. We talk a lot about marketing, life, DEI. The list goes on. Also, the Good For You podcast on YouTube with Whitney Cummings. Oh my god, I love it. And The Bald and the Beautiful, with Trixie Mattel and Katya's, I cannot pronounce that last name. Love it too. Love it too.
Anything with drag queens, apparently.
Anything with drag queens. And violating community guidelines to Brittany Bresky and Sarah Shower.
Amazing. We have 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna we'll maybe have two more questions.
Okay, awesome. LinkedIn user says, I'm amazed at the short shelf life of content. What do you think is the ideal level of consistency for putting out content? Thanks so much. So multiple, I'll go real quick with this one, but, repurpose your content. A lot of my content is me going into Shield. That's why you should use my affiliate link for Shield. I go into Shield and then I go look at content that performed well at least 3 months ago. I copy and paste it. I edit. I add my new takes on things because it's been a minute. And sometimes I copy and paste it. I don't change anything at all. And then I hit that post button. So there's a lot of reusing content. Just because 10,000 people saw it 3 months ago doesn't mean the same 10,000 people are gonna see it today, right? Second thing is, if it's good content, no one will care if they see it multiple times, I promise you. The second thing is, the consistency level. If you're really new to this, just focus on getting comfortable with it, and like 3 to 5 posts per week is a really good goal to have. If you are like me and want to turn this into your primary stream of income that it is for me, you're going to be doing 2 to 3 times per weekday and maybe 1 to 2 times per weekend day. But I recommend like 3 to 5 times per week is a really good soft spot for somebody who's not trying to make this their 9 to 5 like it is for me. Oop, you're on mute,
I'm
Amber.
always on mute. We don't have, yeah,
You'll
I
get
think
this.
like we have done I don't know how many of these, and only one time did I remember to take myself off mute.
Listen, just like I told, was it Michelle Craig? But follow Michelle also. She's fantastic. But we consistently am making the joke about how we're consistently inconsistent.
I loved what you had to say about like the building layers over time. And I think there is like a correlation between what we do at user gyms and kind of establishing those connections. So you're establishing connections on a personal level, and we are as well, like company to company, and you understand what we do.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, a new way to explain it. Incredible.
Well, it's also why companies are also partnering with like influencers and content creators, right? Like, I don't work at User Gems, right? But every time I do anything where User Gems is I've received your socks before, for crying out loud. Like, every time I do anything with User Gems, my name is going to become more and more partnered up with User Gems. Companies, and User Gems is an example. There's Chili Piper is another example. I could go on and on. But partnering with people in addition to companies is also a really good trick, too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the future, right? Like, no
Definitely.
one's looking for what the User Gyms company page has to say. And I know that from personal experience because I'm the person behind the page.
They will if the person they're partnering with tells them to care, though. That's the trick.
Exactly. So I have shared your link, but I'm going to share it one more time. Will you tell us where people can find you, how frequently they can find you, and like what you're talking about right now?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn. I post about 2 to 3 times per workday and 1 to 2 times per weekend. You can find me at the other side of sales. We do live streams there every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And we're taking a little bit of break because of the holidays, but I will be doing that a lot more. Find me on TikTok. Find me on Twitter, if that still exists for the time being. Find me there for now.
We have like 3 days, I think.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. Yeah. And Instagram. And if you find me at my house, I will sue you. Yeah, that's really that simple. That's simple. And if you're in Chicago, like hit me up. We'll get a drink. And when I say Chicago, like I told Amber, I mean the city. If you're in Schaumburg, f off.
Don't get it twisted.
Do not get it twisted.
Mm-mm.
You know.
Well, thank you so much for answering all these questions. And
Of course.
I'm going to let you go.
Well, thank you for having me,
Yeah,
and
of
thank you
course.
so much, and thank you everybody in the comments, especially LinkedIn user. I love your name, LinkedIn user. It's great.
Yeah, we love LinkedIn user.
Yes.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.